Hello and welcome to Rolling in Mills, the film show about I haven't come up with a witty and memorable catchphrase yet. The film I'll be talking about today is Mikhail Klatozov's 1959 film, Letter Never Sent. Now this film has a real simple premise, very similar to kind of Yojimbo in that sense, in that it is executed perfectly. Simple, perfect, great. Lots of very fantastic elements, particularly cinematography, sometimes in the soundtrack a little bit, sometimes in just like the character acting is really solid, really tight script. It's wonderful. I love it. And on the point of cinematography, and without going into any spoilers, some of the shots in this film are insane in that I have no idea how they legally shot them because of how difficult they would have been to shoot. There are some things, maybe 20 minutes of footage where I'm thinking, wow, how did no one die when you shot that? That's just on a health and occupational safety sort of thing. But I also don't know how they technically shot some of these things with these huge bulking 1959 film cameras. I just don't know how they did some of these things. So that's really pretty amazing in parts. Plus it looks really good. The only other Klatozov film I've seen is Soy Cuba, or I Am Cuba, which I absolutely adore. I think it's criminally underrated or underappreciated, I guess. I think the people who have seen it, of which there aren't a huge amount, absolutely love it and rave about it, but I don't think it's as well known as his other films as far as I'm aware. The Cranes Are Flying is his most popular, which I've seen a little bit, but I think I never finished it for whatever reason. I had to go do something else. Anyway, due to the nature of this being a very simplistic film, I'm going to have to go into some mild spoilers, nothing super duper crazy, but if you don't want anything spoiled, of which I would say you don't really want to know a huge amount about it. So my recommendation to you would be go watch it if you haven't seen it. If you've seen other Klatozov films and you liked them, then you're going to love this. Even if you haven't, then you're also probably going to like this because it's a real simple, stripped down, fantastically well-made film. Okay, so this is now the spoilers section, albeit a very kind of light spoilers section. I'll be dancing around elements of the plot because there's nothing extremely deep to analyze here, which is fine. But there's just, there's not a huge amount I really need to go into. Okay, so this shot, I don't know how they did it. I mean, the camera is running alongside the main cast, and they're literally burning down a forest in real life. I mean, this is 1959, obviously. You're not going to be able to have any sort of good-looking, realistic special effects, so that's all real. As far as I'm aware, I can't imagine any way they could have faked this. And I don't know how they're running like that with a camera. And it isn't 16mm. From the look of it, it does have, the film grain of 35mm. And as far as I'm aware, it's shot in 35mm. But I don't know how they're doing that. You got to think about someone's running alongside with this huge bulking camera. They're kind of giving it this, cinema verite, observer, you're almost there with the main cast in the forest, in the burning woods. It's just a really rich experience as a viewer. You don't normally get that kind of intensity and involvement in the immediacy, and that's especially apparent when it's actually happening. They're actually burning down a fucking forest for a film, which I give them credit for, albeit it's not very good for the environment, but whatever, made a good film. And it's also in Siberia, so who gives a shit? They probably need the warmth. I also love this scene at the end where this one character is kind of floating along a river. He's freezing, he's almost dead, and then he sees the idyllic, glittering, sparkling, beautiful, prole-driven Soviet Union, and it's just this workers' paradise. And as this comes up, I'm thinking, okay, 1959, Soviet propaganda, he's being saved by the Soviets are the best people ever. And then it turns out that it's just a hallucination. He's delirious, he's almost on the verge of death, and he does get picked up by the Soviets in the end, but it's a very low-key, someone drops down from a helicopter and picks him up. But what I find really interesting about that hallucination is you're not sure if it's the actual version of Russia in the film, this idyllic workers' paradise, or it's just this delirious guy's idyllic Russia in his hallucination, in the same way that someone who's extremely dehydrated in the desert might see an oasis in a mirage, but not just a cup of water. He's not just seeing, the Soviets as they are. He's seeing them as this beautiful, fit workers' paradise. And I love that. And I'm wondering if that was actually intentional, considering that the Soviet Union wasn't a fantastic place to live, and they certainly didn't look like the idyllic version that he presents. Overall, I'm feeling a 92 on this. The only reason it's this drop in marks is because it could have gone further in a lot of thematic ways, and I think that's the way I mainly will mark films like these, where you can have a film that's executed essentially perfectly in terms of all elements of production and acting and writing and such. Then you get a lot of high marks for that, but it's a lot harder to strive for something more experimental, say, or something more complex or deep, and then be perfect. And those are really like the 98 plus films, essentially. And there are very, very few of those, in my opinion. Still, 92 is not a bad score. I'd pretty much recommend this to everyone. Anyone? Yeah, it's fantastic. And I really hope you enjoy the film. If you go watch it, you can see my other reviews down here. I mentioned Yojimbo. Also a fantastic, fantastic film that has a very, very simple premise. And, yeah. Have a lovely day.